Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon. Post-shift podcast is wherever you're listening, whatever your time you're listening to, before shift, after shift, however you're listening to it. Hopefully it is with a beer or a whiskey in hand, because it is the post-shift podcast, so you should be listening to this after work. But if you're listening to it before work, please don't be drinking. This is the last of the Toronto Cocktail Conference sessions. It's number 13. Which is really a bummer, because now I realize, looking back, I probably should have recorded a little bit more. I've just spent 3 hours, to be honest with you, 3 hours in my studio back home in Victoria before I leave for Singapore, editing and getting all these ready for you guys to listen to. And I'm just so grateful. I'm thinking about how much work this is, and I really hope that you enjoy these episodes. But the last person, by no means is the least. I tried to figure out who I was going to have first, second, third, so on and so forth. And it just sort of struck to me that the amazing bartender from Halifax should be Shawn Beehan. And the reason why he resonates with me is the same reason why me staying in Victoria resonates with me. He has the same sort of views and the same sort of idealistic nature that I have for Victoria, for Halifax. And it really shows through. I got to go to one of his seminars, one of the only seminars I got to do at TOCC this year. And just his passion and his absolute knowledge of absolutely everything that is involved in this process and this subject. And I really it just resonated with me. And I met him a few years ago when I was in Nicaragua with Florida Cana. And he's always been someone on my radar that I've always held to a high account because of him never leaving Halifax. And that's a big deal for me. And I really hope you enjoy this episode, because the guy's knowledge is just off the chain and off the hook. I haven't been to Halifax with him bartending before yet. Hopefully by this actual episode, I would have done my book tour. My second book is coming out sometime around when these episodes are coming out. So I'm looking forward to seeing it as Bar at Lot 6. I've heard he is the most phenomenal, hospitable person, and probably one of the best bartenders in the country. And I am just blown away with the fact of all the things that he does in Halifax and all the things that he does for the community there. Really one of my favorite people in Canada right now. So I hope you enjoy this episode, guys. Thanks for all the support. Keep listening, keep loving. Thank you very much. But usually I just start by asking, introduce yourself.
For sure. Shane, the bartender. Yeah, Shane from Halifax.
Yeah, and how long have you been? You were born and raised Halifax?
No, so I was born in St. John's, Newfoundland, 6th generation Irish Canadian, and then my family moved to Cole Harbour, Nova Scotia, where I was raised.
So you went from one island to another island,
more or less, yeah.
And I'm gonna go with a really hardcore question straight away, and then we can go backwards. But Halifax has got a great cocktail scene now. You got you guys, and you've been a champion for that for a long time. But what kept you in Halifax? Because a lot of bartenders from Halifax, Cooper and Jenner included, left and then came back. Why would you stay?
Yeah, I mean, I hear that quite a bit. People ask me that, and one of the questions people always ask is kind of what's next? Because you might have built yourself up to a point where it's are you going to London next? Are you going to Toronto next? Right? What's your city? But to be honest, I love the East Coast. I love being on the ocean, right? And I personally think that the quality of life in Nova Scotia is more or less unmatched. And I'm kind of afraid to talk about it right now, because one of the things I like to do is keep tight-lipped about this type of stuff, because I don't want to encourage people to move here.
Every Toronto bartender moves to Halifax.
I think that if there was ever a zombie apocalypse and the world was crashing, everybody would come to Nova Scotia, because it's the furthest corner, it's the safest place, it's beautiful, if you want to kind of create the life that you want to live, you can do it there. Now, in terms of the ability of fast-tracking your bartending life, there's not too many opportunities directly in the city, so you have to think outside your ability to do that. But if you want to own a home, buy property, live on the ocean, right now I live in Lunenburg, Nova Scotia. It's a UNESCO World Heritage Site. My wife and I and our daughter, our dog are, renovating a home that we purchased down there. And it's these opportunities that I have for myself in Nova Scotia, I don't think I could have in any other place in the world, right?
Wow, that's a hard sell for Halifax.
Yeah.
And how old's your daughter now?
She is 9.5 months.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
They're a nice addition to life, aren't they?
Changed my life for sure.
Yeah, I always look at my daughter and what was working hard and stuff like that, and I always say that she was an amazing addition. Never really Well, she did change me, but it was an addition that changed me. Not like I see couples who have kids and then they just kid. They don't date it. Like they don't go out for date nights anymore. And it's like, well, you're still married, you know. You're still a couple, right? Like you still have to do it. But kids do change you pretty hard.
Yeah.
And obviously, I love Halifax, and it's a lot like Victoria. So it's like, well, it's a great place to raise a kid. Like I wouldn't leave Victoria ever.
Yeah.
I wouldn't go to Vancouver. I wouldn't move to Toronto, Edmonton, nothing. Victoria is where my home base is. So that's like really that's the reason. Like, how long have you been bartending for?
I mean, I've been in the kind of quote-unquote industry for about 10, 11 years now, but I spent half of that more or less cooking, and then I've been bartending for about 6.5 years now.
And where are you based right now?
Right now, I am the kind of beverage director, managing guy for Lot 6.
Okay.
And then I do just a lot of, private events and custom events.
Also, you do a lot of private events on top of that?
Yeah, I mean, I just... I just like to meet people and reach out and do different things. And so I work with all kinds of different brands on specialty events, or I'll do private parties and stuff like that. And good friends of mine, shout out to Matt and Jeff at the Clever Barkeep, have a awesome consulting company that they do that I also work for them doing a bunch of events as well. So
sweet. And your big event that you do every year, well, what is Drink Atlantic in the second year or first year? Second year.
There's a couple events going on. Yeah, Drink Atlantic was the second year this year. And then there's also Spirited Away, which is the Nova Scotia Craft Spirits Festival. And I think that we're coming into the 4th or 5th year for that festival.
Are you a big fixture for those two events? Like, are you really behind a lot of the push?
Yeah, so Drink Atlantic is certainly put on by Jeff and Matt with the Clever Barkeep in partnership with the Coast, kind of like a weekly kind of newspaper. But I do help out with those guys quite a bit, whether it's doing seminars, activations, bartending, just, basically, like, if you come to Halifax, I'm your guy, right? Like, call me up, I'll pick you up at the airport, I'll drive you home, I'll shake your hand, take you to the beach. And so I just like to just make sure people feel welcome. So I just kind of work the logistics that way, basically for myself in my own time.
I've literally had, like, half a dozen people that I said I'm going to do a podcast with Shane Beehan, and they're like, dude, that guy's hospitality is just fucking on point. It's like I've never had hospitality from any bartender anywhere that I've had when he sat at the bar at Lot 6.
Well, that's super kind of them. I mean, what I think about bartending, especially in terms of hospitality, is that the golden rule that makes you a good person in life should make you a better bartender. And that just means that you're a kind, considerate individual who goes above and beyond to make sure that people are happy at the bar and then beyond the bar too, right?
Yeah. So what's the end game for Drink Atlantic really? Like what is the goals when it comes to Drink Atlantic? What are you setting out to achieve for Drink Atlantic?
I think that Drink Atlantic's focus, more than anything, is to showcase outside of Halifax how special our community truly is. I think that if anybody comes and spends time on the East Coast in Halifax or Nova Scotia, you'll understand that we've got a tight-knit, vibrant community of talented, hardworking bartenders. And Drink Atlantic just takes the next level, bringing in people from away to show them. And I think it's pretty crazy because, 5 years ago, when we really started picking up in our kind of like cocktail scene, and I travel internationally, people would be like, oh yeah, Halifax, I've been meaning to get out there. Or maybe I'll come visit you sometime. In the last couple of years, I've had so many people come to visit, and, it's because they come to see me because, we're friends. They come to see Halifax. They want to check out the scene. For whatever it is, though. But people are starting to get very curious about Halifax. And Drink Atlantic is now in the position to be an opportunity to bring people down and showcase our community to them.
And I know that one of your big passions is East Coast rum trade.
Oh, yeah.
And the history of the East Coast rum trade. Like, I've never heard anyone speak about really an obscure piece of Canadian history as passionately as I heard about you speaking about it. Like, yes, and I heard the story in the seminar, but the kids at home probably haven't. Like, what outside of being exposed to it, like, what sort of drew you towards the history of like a really obscure sort of rum region of Canada?
Yeah, I mean, well, first and foremost, I love a good story.
Yeah.
I did my undergraduate degree and a graduate degree in literature, history, and philosophy, and so I was always interested in stories. And so I was always interested in kind of the origins and where things came from. When I started bartending, what drew me to bartending was, first and foremost, just kind of like day one, right? Like, talk about Jerry Thomas, right? Or you talk about the earliest people that were like bringing the scene forward. And so I always went back and I studied my history and I understood all that stuff. So when I combine my interest of, you know, Eastern Canada and I combine my interest of bartending, and then once you start to kind of like dig a little bit into your own history, you see that like, you know, well, the history of rum is essentially the history of global trade, the history of global commercialism, right? And Halifax, as I always say, is quite literally built off of rum. And even today, it's a huge part of our culture, right? I mean, we... if you look at the stats, like pretty much 50% of all spirit sales in Nova Scotia are rum. The other 50% are gin, vodka, whiskey, everything. Yeah, like rum is still one of the most consumed products, period, in Nova Scotia.
How does it get drunk? Is it neat or is it with Coke?
You know, I mean, it depends, right? It's like a lot of people still are the rum and Coke types, which is a perfectly great drink in and of itself. But we still do so many rum cocktails. Like recently, Joyce Spence from Appleton Estate came out to visit Halifax, which was really cool. What's really interesting?
That is really cool.
What's interesting about Appleton Estate, though, is that it actually shares a birth year with Halifax. So Appleton Estate is the second oldest official rum distillery in the world. Yep. They launched in 1749. Halifax's birth is 1749. So a couple years ago, to celebrate the 265th anniversary, Appleton Estate put out a special edition bottle with a Halifax town clock on it. Right? And it's like, you have one of the world's largest rum companies putting a photo of a tiny East Coast town on their bottle.
Serious?
Right? Yeah, and according to Joyce Spence, Canada, outside of Jamaica, is the largest consumer of Appleton Estate in the world. And Halifax is the largest consumer of rum, like, in Canada. And so essentially, like, you know, you do the connections and you realize that, like, we're big consumers, you know?
Massive consumers. And, like, where do you get the information for that? Because there can't be a huge amount of books on, like, rum trade for Halifax.
No,
you're not going to the library and going, oh, it's right here. Perfect. I've just got my seminar now.
Yeah, no, it's, I mean, quite honestly, it's, I mean, what we were talking about a couple minutes ago, it's a supercomputer in your pocket, right? I mean, Google, like, I really like kind of abstract lines of thought, and one idea might lead to another, which leads to a further idea. And when I was in university, I would always do a lot of research, and so I got pretty good at being able to find access to information. But when I was doing my undergrad, I had a history professor who just one day mentioned, and this was before I even bartended, he mentioned this guy whose name was Joshua Major. And Joshua Major is a really small figure. And if you look at the history of rum, most people want it to be, you know, unknown. Because if you had an illicit operation, you didn't want people to find out about it. And so most of that rum history is truly buried. But one of my university professors, I think, did his own personal PhD research on this guy, Joshua Major, talked about his influence in the rum. And so I looked him up. He's available on the Canadian Encyclopedia, and I just read about him, and I was incredibly fascinated. Because he's a name that I'd say 99.9% of people in the world will never know, and yet he created an empire based off of selling rum in Halifax before Halifax was even a city. Like, he was the first landowner. He was the first taxpayer. He was the biggest ship owner. And he shipped globally all around the world. He was a member of British Parliament. But he did all of this because of rum, right?
Wow. And I always love the rum, going back to the rum and Coke thing, like, I always love when bartenders get pissy about serving rum and Coke, but then they get all geeky when they serve a Cuba Libre. Yeah,
I know. Hey, the line makes all the difference.
Squeeze a lime, and that's a cocktail for a menu. Yeah. But rum and Coke, dude, you're such a pleb. Like,
well, you know what? It's like a lot of my friends too. Like, I mean, I never judge anybody for what they drink. When I have friends come to the bar, and if they grew up with me in Cole Harbour, you know, some people, they grow up in this kind of small part of the world and they don't do any kind of international travel, or they don't understand drinking culture. They just like the rum and Coke, and that's fine. But I might introduce them to, how about rum and soda with a dash of Angostura bitters? Because all of a sudden, you cut out the sugar, you keep the profile of the rum more dominant, a little dash of those bitters makes it a little bit of those cola-esque flavors, and you've got a really light drink. Yeah. And so I don't try to necessarily deter people from that, but maybe say, try something maybe a little different.
Hey, buddy, we're friends. Let me do it a try.
Yeah.
What's your favorite rum? Like, do you have a favorite category of rum? Like, because there's so many styles. Yeah, I mean, are you more of a cleaner, like, style rum, a Dundee rum, or are you more of a sweet guy?
That's the thing about rum, is it's just so incredible. It's like, it's, as a category, 3 letters, RUM, and yet within that there's so much.
Oh, yeah.
I'm a funk guy, right?
Oh, yeah.
So I do love like cachaça.
Yeah.
I do like a lot of French style rums as well, because when you get that like agricole, like real true funk flavor in there, that's what really drives me. But at the same time, I love everything. Like I love Cuban rums.
Yeah.
I love how smooth and mellow those are. I love pot still, so I love a good Jamaican spice as well.
Yeah.
I mean, I have a place for, Navy strength rum. I love something dark, rich, and heavy, right? Like, all of it has its time and place. And, of course, like, I love white rum because mojitos and daiquiris are my favorite, right? But, I mean, you and I, we got to share an incredible experience in Nicaragua together.
Yeah, we did.
And so, Florida Canada changed my life, right? I mean, drinking that 25-year-old, and I mean, that was one of the most special things that I've ever drank down there. So, it's...
I still think we're the only trip that has drank more rum than any other trip. I talked to Jeff about that because I know that the third out of 5 days... They had to go back to the distillery and get more cases because we drunk through the cases.
Yeah, shout out to Freddie on the bus.
Yeah, dude, my new place in Singapore has a mugwort on the menu.
Oh, that's amazing.
Like it's a shaken, like it's called what did I call it? But it literally just says the description is discovered in the back of a bus.
Oh yeah. Oh man.
Freddie and Macwas, yeah, says Florida Canyon 4-year-old Blanco shaken with the Macwa juice, served up a little bit more classy.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, it's on the menu.
That's amazing. I love that.
So what's the direction at Lot 6? Like what sort of restaurant and bar do you sort of run there in the way of the bar program?
Yeah, well, I mean, Lot 6 is downtown Halifax. Now again, because I'm a history guy, this is the third oldest building that's still standing in Halifax, and it's the oldest stone building. And so we've got, like inside the stonework, it's literally the oldest stone you'll get. The building was built in 1760, and so it's like a modern style like bar in this old building, and so there's so much charm there. We have a big oyster program, big cocktail program, and then also like a proper food program. There's 2 bars. So what's cool is like when you walk in off the door, walking off the street, the bar is about 10 feet from you. So as soon as you walk in the door, there's a bartender there saying hi. We've got a really beautiful, like kind of like a horseshoe bar, like a U-bar. Sit down at the bar, we shuck oysters for you fresh, we engage with you, we do all this kind of stuff. A lot of people don't know, because downstairs there is a glass ceiling atrium. So when people hear Lot 6, they come in, they sit at that front bar, they think that's it. Some of them might stumble down the hallway and turn right, and then, it's been described as Narnia, because it's like this hidden gem.
I've seen a picture and it's ridiculous.
It's not a speakeasy style place, and it's not hidden. It's just that the way that these old buildings are, we've got this front seating area that people think that that's everything, but then there's like a 120-seat glass ceiling atrium with this beautiful, large, expansive bar in the back. And that's the kind of, real quote-unquote meat and potatoes of the place,
Yeah. What's in the future for you?
What's in the future? I'm not exactly sure. I mean, I didn't even know what was going to start with me as a bartender. When I started bartending, I had a lot of different aspirations in my life. I said I would give myself 2 years bartending to see kind of how things went in my life. And after 2 years, I felt that I had enough success and opportunity to continue on. And now I'm in a place where, I'm so grateful to have all the opportunities that I do have in front of me, but I'm also trying to balance myself accordingly. Mm-hmm. Right now, and I say this to other bartenders too, it's like, don't make the bar the be-all and end-all of your life. You have to invest in something outside of it. I've got a lot of interest in my personal life and my professional life. My wife and I have been like buying and renovating homes and working on them as projects for the last couple of years.
Okay.
We just purchased a really nice. It was built in the 1880s, but it's a 3-unit home right in the heart of like Lunenburg UNESCO World Heritage Site. We're just seconds from the ocean. The smell of the salt air runs in there, and so we're working on this home and developing it into like a really cool opportunity for rentals. Right? We have a house in the city that has a couple units in 2 that we rent out, and so I stay busy by like doing that. And then in my bar life, I was in the process of opening a bar the last 5 years. I was working on a project with good friends of mine. The project is still continuing, but I sold my shares to them because at the time I just kind of realized that this particular project wasn't exactly where I wanted to be, and so I stepped away from that. I certainly have a million ideas in my head of starting my own place, but I'm sure that as you know, and as anyone who's opened a bar knows, it's a lot of work.
Yep.
And you know what? At the end of the day, I tried to detach myself from my own personal ego, and I don't need to do something for the sake of doing it. I don't need to open up a bar to say, hey, I can open up a bar.
Yep.
You know, why I love bartending is because I connect with people, and I can connect with people in so many different avenues that don't necessarily have to be with me stressing over all the details that go into doing that. Do I and will I open up my own place someday in the near future? More than likely, yes. But at the same time, I am just so happy with where I am, coming in terms as myself as a father, you know, raising my daughter and getting to experience that is more important for me than anything right now. So I've actually been on kind of like a paternity leave, as I put it, since October. I've stepped back on the bar recently to do some training, menu development, and hiring, and start to gear myself back into that mode. But I've been spending a lot of time just changing diapers.
That's amazing. I think a lot of young bartenders feel like the end game is owning your own place, and then, well, especially with my experience, like it's one of those things. Is like owning your own place doesn't complete you. You have to learn how to complete yourself, and the place that you open or own or partly own or anything like that is just an addition. It's an extension of yourself, not yourself.
Yeah.
So
you're exactly right.
Are you traveling any more this year?
Yeah, I mean, I've got a couple things certainly planned. I'm headed off to Scotland next month.
Awesome.
Finishing second in World Class Finals
That's
this year.
right, yes.
I was awarded what I consider to be, and I love Mr. Jeff Savage, but I got the best part of the deal because I get to go to the Global Finals, and I don't have to stress out and do all the work. Of course, I'm going to be there to support the team, and I know that Jeff's got a lot of really crazy ideas going on for this, and so I'm going to help support them the best I can. And then afterwards, we're going to take a small trip over to a southwestern island called Isla, and we're going to drink lots of whiskey. But I'm very excited because I've never been to Scotland, and as someone that lives in a maritime climate that is conditioned by a maritime climate, to be able to go there and taste these whiskeys that I love so much that come from this like isolated area, I'm super stoked.
Yeah, how was World Class for you this year?
Oh, it was incredible. I mean, it was my third year doing the national finals, and it was every year you do it, it just gets tough and tougher and tougher and tougher. And right now, the Canadian bartending scene is just exploding. I mean, I remember the first year I did it. It was years ago. 2013 maybe 2014. Yeah. But I'd only been bartending for a year. I somehow stumbled into the national finals, and I saw all these giants of industry. That's a year Lauren Moat won, but it was Lauren Moat and Jez, and there was Cooper, and there was Shane Mulvaney, and there was Danny. There was literally heroes of mine in the Canadian bartending world that I was standing next to. And now when you do World Class, like, I went from being the youngest person to, like, almost being the oldest. And that's in a short period of time, because these competitions can certainly take a lot out of you. And in terms of, how much money you spend, how much time you spend, how much energy you spend into them. And they're not for everybody, but everybody that does it, like, you just see these shifts now. And all these people that have done it have grown on to, like, bigger, incredible things. And now there's a younger generation that's coming up, and they're so hungry and thirsty. So it's cool to see it from both perspectives,
Yeah, Jeff was telling me last week about what the schedule of, like, challenges are as, like, multiple countries this year for the globals, like, studying in Holland and then going to Scotland as different challenges.
Yeah.
I'm like, I remember how much money I spent on baggage fees when I went to the Nationals. Yeah. And you're like, now you got to go across 2 different countries? Like, no, I don't think I could do that.
I know. Well, I mean, since the wonderful and talented Caitlin Stewart put Canada on that, like, real world-class global map when she won the Globals, our program in Canada for the world-class program has just gotten stronger and stronger. And this year, they tried to emulate the global package in the national package. Yeah. And so essentially, like, we were conditioned to do what you have to do at Globals. And so for us, when we flew to Whistler this year, we flew into Vancouver, and then we fly up, and we have to travel, and you're taking buses, you're taking planes. You have to do a multitude. There was 8 challenges this year. Some of them didn't even have to do with cocktails, right? Some of them were sitting in front of a camera, having a conversation. You had to make a video. You had to go and create a project that was given back to the community. Like, it wasn't just like, can you make a cocktail? It's like, can you be a complete bartender?
Yeah.
And so that's why I think Jeff is going to be so prepared for the globals this year, is because we trained hard for it.
Yeah, I'm always impressed with Michael and John when they put together the nationals, and more they just go, okay. Because I watched a couple of nationals in different countries via like Facebook live chat and stuff like that, and I was like, oh, it's a cocktail competition. They're doing a couple of harder challenges, but like, it's a cocktail competition like traditional style that we're used to. And then you see what you guys are doing, I'm like, holy shit, I don't have the fortitude to do that anymore.
I know, and also like, I love my wife, and she is so patient, but I am a mess leading up to it. I'm a mess coming back from it. And, you spend all that time stressing out, perfecting, trying to do everything, and then you come back and you're exhausted and burnt out. And so, World Class itself might happen over a 4 to 5 day period. It's weeks and months leading up to it, and then it's still weeks and a month recovery from it, right?
Yeah.
And, I've been blessed to have a lot of support from my family, but at the same time, I do kind of get the, you know what, maybe take a step back from competitions,
Just take a break. You're good. When are you heading home?
Tomorrow morning, I am. Because I've got just a couple other things on the go. I'm going to Newfoundland in October. Like I said, I'm going to Scotland. I'm going to Scotland next month. I've got a couple other small local things planned out, so I can't take too much time away from my family. As much as I wish I could, Toronto is one of my favorite places in the world. I am born with blue and white blood, lifetime Toronto Maple Leafs fan. So every time I come into town, I try to do something related to the Maple Leafs, but I have to leave early tomorrow.
Oh, that's unfortunate. Well, I really appreciate you sitting down with me, buddy.
Hey, Shawn, I appreciate you doing this. I mean, you're such a inspiring figure in the cocktail world across Canada, because you push yourself to limits that most people won't do. And it might seem, and I know you talk about this sometimes, I see on your Instagram posts and stuff like that, but it certainly seems like a glamorous life sometimes of the bartender. We get to travel, we drink, we have fun, we party, but with that, it's late night, it's early mornings, it's being away from your family, and it is incredibly hard work. And, you push yourself to levels that most people are afraid to go to, so,
ridiculously stupid.
Yeah, I know, but hey.
Well, thanks, buddy. I appreciate it.
Hey, for sure.
Cheers, man. Thanks, guys. I hope you enjoyed that episode. I really enjoy sitting down with friends and people who I haven't met before, or mentors, or people I idolize, and fanboy out a little bit. I really hope you enjoy the episodes and everything you get from them, because I'm just going to keep loving doing them, and they're just going to keep happening. But I recently started working with Beehan Footwear out of Toronto. Beehan Footwear is, if you've looked at my Instagram or my social media, my fantastic shoes that I wear around. My pink flamingos get a lot of attention, but I've started working with them as their brand ambassador. So if you go to beeonfootwear.com, so BIION footwear.com, and order a pair of shoes and type in my name, and hopefully if you're listening to this podcast you know how to spell my name, you'll get 20% off a pair of shoes. I really enjoy them. They're comfy as hell. I travel in them, I work in them, I do absolutely everything in them, and I really enjoy working with these guys. It's an amazing company out of Toronto, and I'm thankful that I have been given the opportunity to be a brand ambassador. So I want to thank everybody for the support for the podcast. I want to thank everybody for following along on social media, and if you want a cool gangster pair of shoes, you've got to have a pair of Beehans. See you guys. Bye.